Hello, IG Fam Jam. Nice to see you today. Excited for today. It's Free Flow Fridays, and Erin and I are going to be chatting for about 30 minutes, and then we have a special guest coming on. Harrison's going to join us at 2 p.m. Mountain Time. So that is super exciting. And Erin and I are going to speak body and healing from the emotions, i.e. using, chakra work. Hello, my dear.
Hello, how are you?
It always compresses once the person gets on.
Yep. And I am decompressing my spine during today's Free Flow Friday. So don't mind my squishy beanbag.
Oh, this is good. We're talking then. Everything's in divine timing always, right?
Exactly. Well, I just drove down to South Florida and I was sitting up for a while. So I was like, oh, I can just use the beanbag for my meet and greet today, right?
Yeah. I love beanbag chairs.
Yes.
They're the best. Just mold right in.
Yes.
Yeah, so I was just explaining before you popped on to these wonderful beings that popped on here and about just our meetings every Tuesday in Clubhouse, how we talk about the chakras and the energy centers. And actually, I was going to pin a link in here just for the chakra challenge.
Ooh, good choices.
I think there we go. Yeah. So that chakra challenge, before we dive into this, is actually on Tuesday, I think. Is that March 1st? Whatever March 1st is. We're coming up to March already.
I think it is because the new moon's coming up around the same time.
Yes. So the chakra challenge, if I'm just going to explain it briefly before we dive in, Erin,
Sure.
is just an opportunity for you to look deeper at these emotional centers, because it's not just the physical parts that we are healing from. Right? It starts with that emotional part first, and the chakras just represent a whole bunch of different vibrational frequencies that we carry and emit from, because we're energy beings. and we're going to dive into this in a second, so stick around. And basically the challenge is every day you'll get a yoga video and a Zoom call on the first day, so I can be with you and explain them and maybe dive into what you might be feeling sluggish in or blocked in any areas energetically, because it does represent and show in the physical form. Okay, I'm just going to finish the chakra challenge and then I want to dive in with you. Then every day you'll get a yoga video and then basically a meditation and breath work in the private Facebook group page. And it's only $7. That's
Yay.
Way less US. I think probably $5 US. So it is just so worth getting that knowledge of what's going on. And you do this with your clients, specifically in Reiki, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So this can be done not just with someone physically. You can do distance healing as well, but we do it with our yoga practices as well. And just speaking about it in these Tuesday rooms in Clubhouse. So how are you, my dear?
I am good. I am going through a huge energetic shift and it's taking a lot of physical presence. So my practice has been really in line with the yoga that you're going to be teaching for the each chakra. And every day it's a new challenge, because a lot of people don't realize that when you release through the practice and the physical, the mental, or the energetic, your body actually shifts, your body changes, it grows, it heals in a certain way. So maybe you have a tension release on your lower back, or, your neck aligns, or that crack that felt like it needed to happen years ago, finally lets loose. And so I'm actually kind of going through that physically right now. As you can see, I'm sure anyone who's tuned in, I had a little spinal issue at the beginning of the year when I slipped on some black ice. So these past 2 months have been a lot of community healing and physical work and being gentle and not pushing past my limits. So it's definitely provided me with that opportunity to dive into a lot of the chakras and energy centers for purging.
Yes, yes, yes. Because they do hold such resonance. Where in your body is it?
So it's right around my cervical, the middle of my neck. And so it's very throat chakra related, and then very much in my sacrum. So kind of root. And so it just blasts up and down And like some days my heart is so open, and then other days it's so like someplace else. So my practice has been shifting a lot day to day.
Yeah, that's interesting. We'll talk about that when Harrison jumps on. I'm not sure if you're going to be around for that. I mean, you're more than welcome to stick around. I just want him to go through a bunch of stuff.
Oh, absolutely. I think I might be able to stay for part of it, but not all of it.
Yeah, and he's only on for 20 minutes, so it won't be that long. But I wanted to discuss with you before Harrison comes on, and if people are just jumping on, we have a featured guest. Erin and I do this every Fridays. Feel free to, if you want to hang out with us a little bit longer, to send this to one of your friends or follow Erin or me up at the top there. So basically, when I think of healing from the emotional center, which is basically kind of what it pierces through our energetic field first before it manifests into this physical realm, where we start to feel it in our bodies and our physical bodies, whether it be an injury or a dysfunction or an imbalance or something like that. You got to think about it. Isn't it strange? And it's not strange anymore to me because I know and get it now. But when someone goes to the doctor and says, you know, and say they have cancer, stage 4, whatever cancer they have, and they tell the doctor that, and this is not discrediting anyone's choice of whatever you decide to do on your healing journey, but I think it's very interesting to notice and observe this, and the stories that I've seen directly from even clients or whoever, is they decide to go this route of the healing, full, just holistic healing. And then they decide to do that by tapping into their own healing powers with their mind, and perhaps Dr. Joe Dispenza work. I mean, that's an example right there, is healing from your back. And so when they decide to do that, and then all of a sudden they do whatever work it takes, all these therapists, healers, ayahuasca, whatever you decide to go on, they come back to the doctor, and the doctor is shocked that it's like, how is this even possible that your tumor went down or your cancer went away and it's like, we have our own healing mechanisms, but we have to believe though. If you don't believe that, it's not going to work.
I think one of the common misconceptions that a lot of people get about this type of healing, and just from my personal, so it took me 10 years of my 38 years with seizures to learn how to not have seizures. And it's not a overnight, I'm going to take some alternative medicine, liquid pill, I'm not going to see one doctor. It's a lifelong journey, because you have adapted some type of structure or belief or energy pattern that you have to break down, like peeling an onion, you know, and it is layer by layer, and it's not doing the same thing all the time. I have a friend who healed at 72 from stage 4 lung cancer, and it took her two years before all the tumors and everything were all completely gone. And, you know, you can't go back to, like, people have this concept that I'm going to go back to being who I was. I'm going to go back to that healthy, you know, version of, you know, that memory of who I was. And it's not ever going to be that way. And there's like a lot of misconception that bumps people off of the holistic path, because it's really hard. It's not a happy-go-lucky moment, you know what I mean? Like when you kind of, it hit me, it dawned on me like a year or two ago that I haven't had a seizure in a few years, because I was just so focused in on, okay, I've got to, you know, keep my rituals going, and I've got to stand on my fear, I've got to face everything and digest it and let it go and like grow from it. And so I think it scares a lot of people, because when you have something that, you know, someone tells you, oh, you're going to die, or you're going to have this in this amount of time, it's like you have to choose to not believe that. You have to choose to keep the power in your court so that you can go out and, okay, this is what's going on. I'm going to go ask my friends. I'm going to go see who out there in my environment is, you know, have survived it, deals with it, helps people grow from it, and then evaluate where you are in your path. Because it might cost you every penny you have, but money comes and goes, and it's kind of like this overwhelming test. What means more, your life, your lifestyle, your health, or what you have and like what you hold on to. And so I think for a lot of people, when you dive into these energy centers and you start doing all this work, it's this dawning moment in their mindset that's like, oh, I could have done this years ago.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's also, you're absolutely right. There's a lot of fear in entering that pathway and that journey because people don't believe that it can happen like that, or they just don't want to take that go through all the different layers, perhaps whether it's inner childhood or reprogramming or whatever work that you would like to do. It does take, courage to step into that. And there is no time frame. Some people say that it could happen right away. Some people say it's a long journey, and it's up to you really, because you have the power. You're holding that torch. Like you said, you're holding the opportunity and stepping into the belief, and the intention is so powerful. When I work with clients in craniosacral therapy, visualization and intention goes a long ways, and just believing and surrendering and allowing that this can happen. So when my mom passed away in 2014 and I found her, there was a very traumatic experience. I ended up both my shoulders. So I had bilateral, I had frozen shoulder, like it was literally stopped, like working. It was frozen, and bursitis and a whole bunch of stuff going on in shoulders. And that is directly related to the heart, right? So in Chinese medicine, a lot of my acupuncturist told me that shoulders is heartache. And of course the heart chakra as well is related to that. So that's an intense experience when you can direct it towards the subtle part, especially if it's bilateral, not just unilateral. Sometimes it might be just a physical, like you got into an accident, but I still think that energetics plays a huge part in this way prior to the physical.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and I like that there's this diagram of how samskaras come into the body. And like if your body is a spiral and then the samskara comes in and it's like it's stuck and it's like its own little spiral. And it does have a tendency to start in something smaller. And then because you practice it and you keep giving it energy and you keep feeding it and you keep shifting it to play with it however it should suit the environment, then eventually, like I don't think that my slip on the black ice recently was because I was clumsy. I think it was because, universe kicked in and said, hey, you have some serious stuff you need to work on, and I think a lot of that with the clients that I end up seeing, whether it's in my massage business or it's in my life coaching business, they're going through the same version of it in like their own way, and it's just like letting go of who's or what is to blame and, just totally owning it and letting it roll and seeing where it takes them. And like, that's the path, right? That's, the journey of life.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm a queen of injuries when it comes to, just because I was an athlete. And I want to address Lee, this comment here, because I was a snowboarder as well. I also broke my ankle skateboarding. And the interesting thing is it's an opportunity to really, because it can be very depressing to have an injury. And there's a lot, Liba, okay, thank you. There's a lot of lessons that come with that. And for me, a lot of it was slowing down and just patience. But with Liba's left wrist, which is related, and wait, you broke a bone on the thumb and then the wrist. So that is related to the feminine side and also connected to communication. And then, of course, the heart, because the arms are related, shoulders, the limbs related to the heart as well. So perhaps you might want to look deeper into that, Liba, of where your, how is your relationship with your feminine and or communication, as well as checking into the heart. So what is your response to that, Erin? What's coming up for you?
So usually when you break something, the body when it has like it's holding on to it, whatever it is, physical or not, it will adjust in order to continue posture, like continue use, continue balance.
Mm-hmm.
And in the heart chakra, we have, you know, the lower human, the kind of middle human, and the upper spiritual chakras within the larger. And when you do something like with your hands or specifically your shoulders, it's, well, what's part of that too? Because there's the male, feminine, you know, masculine, feminine balance in that spiritual connection through the heart that does get drained and or strained and or challenged, right? As we go to do things, you know, we viscerally touch things and interpret things and energy through our hands as well. And so even in that is the opportunity to receive a disturbance or even a blockage because you're not processing that energy. So whether you kind of broke it and it was a lesson and now it's going to get bigger and bigger as it scrolls up your arm to the center of the body and take more of your time and energy versus, you know, letting it go. I do the same things. I've broken my toe twice, like the same toe twice. What? And it was, you know, it was one of those 6 months worth of, oh my God, okay.
Yeah, the same. It's like stubbing the same or pressing on the same bruise over and over and over.
Yep.
That's me in relationships. But that was my old story. Moving on to the new.
Right.
So
those were the lessons you learned.
Yeah, absolutely. And Liba says it's connected to the heart and definitely more tapped into masculine versus the feminine side. And I believe that, yeah, for me personally, this connection and understanding of the masculine and feminine has been such, and stepping into each side as, where am I going to play a part here? Because both are energetically in me. So where am I going to introduce and invite? Okay, I'll invite the masculine side here. I need to charge forward with this work right now, but then I want to surrender and soften and not have attachment to the outcome and feel the flow of it. And also in my healing, I've really introduced the feminine, masculine a lot in my healings, particularly the feminine, because I was neglecting it, which ties into the hormones quite a bit.
Yeah.
Like we talked on our last live.
Yeah. And I think a lot of it is, it's, you know, and I come back to this all the time. It's intuitive in the moment. You know, there are times when I'm like, I did really, really well with my property hosting business this week. And I was like on cloud 9 and I was getting quite egotistical with it. And I had to kind of catch myself and be like, dial it down. You're excited. You're happy it worked. Yay. But like, you can almost feel it pushing you, you know, that anticipation, the expectation, that kind of high, whether it be positive or negative, and it steals your attention. It really does. And I think this comes back to Siddhartha Buddha and the Vipassana training. It's like, you know, you've got to have that constant tuning into your awareness and being intuitive about what's going on and like, where is it taking you before you maybe go a little too far sometimes, too long, because I am totally guilty of that, just so we all understand.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, Vipassana. Such a good practice. Because it all stems from the thoughts in the mind, right?
Yeah.
And it's funny, Liba says about the right side being injured way more, and definitely my right side is more injured. But then I balanced it out with getting the left side of the frozen shoulder. So I started to eventually balance my injuries out.
Yeah. Well, when I was younger in my 20s and I was playing really competitive tennis, like, you know, it would be the instep of my foot or my ankle, and then it would be the opposite knee, and then it would be the opposite side of my hip, and then it would be like somewhere in my shoulder. And before you know it, I'm like, well, how in the daylights did I even get here? What? And then you got to stop for a moment, you know?
And so this is an important point. I think that we have to come back into preventative measures. When you're doing preventative, where you're aware of your physical, everything that you're approaching, how you're approaching your day with your sleep, right? Sleep is like 100% important to me. I did not function the other day when I woke up at 3:33 and did not go back to bed.
I
I
could
even
only
took a nap.
imagine.
I couldn't do it. I was just like drained. I felt like I drank alcohol, and it's been like ages since August since I drank. So it's just interesting how we approach all the daily things, the mindset, everything that we're doing in life. It affects us, right? And this, it's preventative, because by the time you get that physical injury, something has already been misrepresented or destabilized or dysregulated through our emotional body, right?
Yeah.
Finally it takes shape. So I think this is a good point, because people, they don't slow down or take a day off work or until they get sick. And it's like, why don't you boost your immune system and learn how to be healthy prior to you just burning out? Like it's
So there was this
amazing.
really interesting story that I forget what movie it was in, but they're in another country and they talk about Americans, and they talk about how Americans have this problem giving themselves permission. And it's like, in order for the American to enjoy the weekend, they're going to buy a 6-pack of beer. They're going to drink the whole thing on one day. They're going to get totally verschnookered. They're going to be, awful the next day because they're totally hungover. And then they go back to work for like Monday through Friday for their like 40 to 80-hour work week, whatever. And I think that's kind of a mentality that we've adapted in all of the generations that are kind of like the workforce right now. Self-care is this misconception of, oh, I'm going to give myself a massage today. And instead of it being like, oh, I'm going to give myself a massage, I'm going to have ice cream, I'm going to take the rest of the day, I'm going to relax. Like, I actually purposely planned to have an hour of just laying on this beanbag after driving because my spine needed to decompress. Could I keep going? Absolutely. But not to my healing, and a lot of people look at me and they're like, how could you take that much time off? You're not being productive. You're not adding to the gross national product. And I'm like, and I don't care, because my body is my most valuable thing I have. If I don't take care of it, by the time I turn 42, I won't be able to walk. So, little things.
Yeah. And self-love is, we'll be talking about it with Harrison, because he's just huge self-love advocate. And it's interesting because it's not about, if you want to really go deep with this and more intense with what self-love is doing the shadow work and loving your parts that you think aren't lovable. Maybe other people think they are, but you've told yourself that they're not. Like, that's the real self-love. Yeah, go get a massage. It feels great.
Yeah.
But like, let's go deeper so that you can actually create change. And for me, with this cycle syncing thing that I do with scheduling, I literally don't take a full week off because I'm still doing stuff, but I don't book like full day clients at all one week out of the month, just to honor.
And that's important. Yeah. But that makes you stronger. It makes you more valuable. And I think that's where a lot of people miss the opportunity to come back and be strong in their self-love and in their identity.
Yeah. And we have to let go of the shame and the guilt of it, right? Because there is a lot. Oh my God, I slept in, I'm a loser, da 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 da. Like, we can tell ourselves so many things, and it's awful. It's awful what perpetuates from that thought pattern.
Yeah. So like the beginning of this year, one of the things I've been able to do in my personal care is I've chosen to get rid of alarm clocks, and I've only been getting up as the sun comes up. Mm-hmm. So, I close regular shades because I don't want to have a beam right in my face, but I definitely just wake up with the sun. Yeah. And I've stopped like this anticipation of, I have to get up, I have to do this. And it's like, no, I'm going to get up. I'm going to book 3 things throughout the day that I absolutely have to do. I'm making plans for, 2 whole days in the week where I'm just doing some paperwork. And then, I have 2 or 3 days where I'm just like, okay, I'm breathing today. I'm just going to go with the flow today. I'm going to see what comes up, instead of this. I used to have a very anxiety driven, event based, like lots of expectations lifestyle. And I was like, you know, it doesn't honor or serve me to have that level of intensity because I can't uphold it forever. Right? It's a short-term thing.
Yeah.
And that takes a lot. It took a lot for me, and I can only imagine how much it takes for the rest of our environment or community.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I wanted to ask you a question about your own work with chakras and how you, because I remember hearing this, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure I have a good memory. When we first started doing the clubhouse rooms, I asked this question for the panel. And those that aren't aware of what Clubhouse is, I'm pretty sure you probably do by now, but if you don't, it's an all audio social networking app where you get on stage, you talk about, you know, have different events and different topics. And Erin and I run a room every Tuesday at 12:30 Mountain Time talking about the chakras. And I asked you, this was last year, what kind of things you did to really connect and balance them if you felt like there was some kind of incongruency going on. And then you said that you sit in meditation and you place one hand and you kind of like feel through it, and you go up. Now, first, am I correct? And then I have another follow-up question on that.
That is definitely one of the ones that I will use as a Reiki master. Like, I've definitely developed a high sensitivity with my hands. So the intentionality of it works, but I also do a lot of the Dispenza meditations where I intentionally rise the energy, or I dive in, or I implant a symbol in each one, kind of based on what it is, and then let the symbol take. It just depends on how long I'm, you know, is it a 5-minute, 10-minute morning thing? I'll use my hands at this point. If it, you know, right now in my healing process, because it's so physical, I'm, you know, doing more of the deeper quantum meditation work because I'm trying to heal my cells on that quantum level and bring that energy forward.
Right, right. Because do you find it easier because you're aware of that energy, because you do it with other people in Reiki? Can you still tap into your own and do, probably, right? You can do Reiki on yourself. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So what I tend to do is, especially if I'm working with clients, is I usually like to, if I feel like their throat is blocked, sure, you'll go there and you'll do work around it, but I usually tend to go back. And I wanted to talk to Harrison about this when he jumps on. If he goes, or you go back to the root, and this is what I usually do with my clients, I say, go back to the root, the foundation, and then kind of work your way up like you're building a house. And then assess it. You don't have to even stay there long. Just make sure that things are kind of moving there, and then work your way up. Does that make sense? Instead of just targeting right to the throat.
Well, I mean, and for me too, depending on what the client or the person or whomever is listening to this is going through, when you get to what we call like a blockage, right? There's a message there. Like, and whether it comes up in my mind or if it comes up in their mind, like I'll call too. Like, I usually put my clients into a deep, deep meditation when I am doing just the energy work, because there's what I get and then there's what they get. And then we usually have a talk session afterwards where we go deep into, okay, when I'm here, what are you feeling? Right. And I bring them up a little bit out of that meditative spot, and we'll do specific breathing and energy point techniques to bring energy into that area and focus it outward. I'm kind of using like meridians and things to bring it up. And then they usually have some type of epiphany or idea or something that helps unlock what's going on, and we can release enough of the energy where it's not so intense, and they have a better time running through it. And that's kind of like how Reiki generally flows for me with like a one-on-one session with clients.
Right. Yeah, that's interesting. Because there's so, people don't realize that there's other elements going on. And in yoga, we learn so much more than just the chakras even, right? The koshas, the different layers. Mm-hmm. There's the kleshas in the mind that you learn in meditation and what the Buddha teaches. And and then when Harrison jumps on, we'll be talking about he does inner child work as well. I just want to read Tara's comment. Yes, being the witness.
Yes.
Rather than engulfed by it.
I was just going to respond to that. I love you, Tara. That was perfect.
Definitely being the witness. And that's what we learn in all these different meditation practices, is to sit in stillness with oneself. And that's how you get to know and feel into that we are energetic beings. Like, you feel in more to that we're not just this physical body, right? We're dynamic, and we're multifaceted and multi-layered, and there's just so much more to just this.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and to be really honest, like, healing is really figuring out where the dis-ease is in a body. I mean, because, when I study quantum, it's like you have the material body is the lowest frequency density that you can have, because in order to be dense, you have to slow energy down. And then it just kind of every body up is, emotional, mental, spiritual, vital. There's 12 that they've now been able to identify. And you can access them all and figure out, where is this starting from that it's showing up in my physical body. And, for me right now, it's a lot of unspoken things that I don't want to say, that it's just taking me a while to kind of it out. So,
right.
And that's part of the process, though. Like, a lot of people run away from this, and they're like, I'm just going to take some medicine. I'm just going to go to my doctor. I'm just going to have a surgery. And I'm like, maybe not so much.
Yes. They are. It's true. It's true, because it's from the programming, right? It is definitely from the fear that they've had, that they said, I mean, we've been told to really trust our doctors. And I love the fact that they've healed me through different surgeries. And
hey, Harrison.
Perfect timing.
Hello, beautiful souls.
Hello.
Can you hear me okay?
See your face. Yeah, I'm used to hearing your voice, and now it's so nice to hear your face.
Now they've matched. The union is complete.
Yes. So Harrison has an extremely busy day, so we're going to be very efficient with our conversation.
Well, Aly, so first of all, I love you. Thank you for just really being so open and flexible with me. But, just let it flow. I'm all about, and maybe you've heard me speak about this, Aly, I'm all about allowing the feminine to flow within the masculine structure, right? So there's balance that we can take, right?
I love that. And Erin's going to hang out for a little bit with our conversation. This is Erin. She does the Tuesday rooms with me on the chakras. And Harrison, for those that don't know him, please go follow up top there. You'll see Chakra Chats, and you can follow him on there. And I know Harrison from Clubhouse. And so basically, every time I go into a room on stage and you are speaking, I just feel like, well, for one, I learn so much, because you just are a wealth of wisdom with everything with inner child and chakras and holistic health. And your responses to people's questions is just, you explain it so eloquently and like compassionate. Like you're just like a beam.
Thank you, Aly. I try my best. I try. It's sorry to interrupt you, but just to explain that, and this is not a Harrison thing. Yes, I am a beautifully unique and powerful soul. I'm not giving my power away, but for me, it's dropping into that heart center, right? We often forget that we have an option to do that. I've noticed, right? A lot of us think that we need to spend most of the time through that mental space, which is powerful and deserves to be loved as equally as any other part of us. But we forget that we have a choice, right? We have the option, if we allow it to be so, to speak through the heart, right? And I've found, Aly, and I'm sure you can relate to this, on the Clubhouse platform, I find it's a lot more effective for me in the work that I do to speak from that heart space.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And you can feel it when you are embodying that and speaking from that place. And then when you come from the heart chakra, all of a sudden this throat starts to like open up, right? The throat chakra.
It's funny. It's funny that, huh? It's funny how that works like that.
Yeah.
I have a hypothesis on that, and this is definitely, it's funny when we talk about the chakra conversation, a lot of it is very experiential in my experience. A lot of it, yes, there are books that we can read and we can get frameworks and we can get themes, but a lot of what I speak about from the heart is what I feel, what I've noticed. And when you talked about the opening of the throat in unison with the heart chakra, I think that is a mechanism that exists. There's a reason that the throat is on top of the heart. And I feel it's because the throat is where our love meets the world, right? We feel our love internally in the heart chakra. And then through the throat, we then have the opportunity to express that love outwards. So that's what that feeling is in my experience, Aly.
Right. Okay. So if you have something, say, blocked through the upper realms of the spirit realms, do you usually intend to, and we kind of touched on this earlier, do you go back to the root, to the foundation, and then just like rebuild back up? Or
it's a good question. And it's very individualized. So it depends on the person and what they've been through, right? So what you're hitting on there for people listening is how these chakras, like the rest of our body, don't work in isolation, right? They're impacted. They work integratively through each other, right? So a challenge in the throat, for example, is most likely going to have a root representation or a sacral representation. One that I can share here that maybe people can relate to is, let's say that we are having some resistance in the throat. Let's make a connection to the sacral. And why do we do that? It's because the sacral is often the space and place where an inner child likes to sit, right? And as a child, what is something that can often occur that maybe some of us can relate to that can impact the throat? Well, I know for me that if someone told me that I should be seen, not heard, or that my voice doesn't matter, or that I don't deserve to express my feelings as a child, that's going to have a ripple effect into my current adult life through the throat chakra.
Or shut up. Like things like that are just like the little T's that hit you.
Yeah.
Right?
And that's why it's important, Aly, to work holistically with them. Right. So if you're doing work on the throat center and you've done all the things around it, like you're speaking your truth, right? You're listening to your needs and wants, you're noticing that you're speaking up for yourself, but still it's not shifting. Right. Let's go deeper into those other areas. Right. Let's go deeper into the relationship with the sacral now, and maybe it has something to do with your sexual expression and your speaking of it. Right. That's just one example.
I love how they weave together.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. And I mean, okay, so I don't want to put Erin on the spot, but she already did herself. She voluntarily put herself on the spot. Earlier, she's got a little bit of an injury going on through the neck, the cervical spine, and we were talking about the throat chakra. And personally with me, I clear my throat quite a bit, even though I know that I've done a lot of work around it, like you said. And it's still there, and it's like you take out dairy, you take out, you do all the things, but it's interesting how that happens.
Well, so Erin, if you're coming to see me and that was happening, or Aly, you were saying that to me about clearing the throat, and you're doing the other things around it. What I would then do is I would then get really specific throughout the day, right? You said you're clearing your throat, Aly, but when you're not clearing your throat all the time, you're probably clearing your throat around specific situations, right? So is it, for example, are you clearing your throat when you talk to your dad? Right? Are you clearing your throat when you speak to your mum? Are you clearing your throat when you're at work and you're speaking to your supervisor about something in relation to how you're showing up as yourself in that environment, right? All of those little sort of environmental clues are probably leading you to the reason why that is there in the first place.
Yeah, and I think it ties in with like the nervous system, where you start to feel maybe nervous, or it's right before I have to do something big, or
Well, so with that, I would now So something big in terms of, is it business related? Aly, can I ask you, is it to do with your business?
It was actually specifically, I noticed it, and then he called it out because he was aware of chakras as well.
Yep.
He's like, that's interesting, your throat chakra. It was on a podcast interview, and I was just kind of like nervous, and like, I've only done a few podcast interviews, and for me, being on the spot is hard. I like edifying other people. That's why I'm like, it's the Harrison show.
So this is a good example here, and this is another connection we can make between another chakra here. So, and thank you for sharing that, Aly. And just so people are aware, I have that I just got off a podcast. I was recording a podcast, and that happened to me a couple of times, right? And this is the connection. So we speak our truth through our throat, but our truth is not defined in our throat. Where is our truth defined? Our truth is defined in our solar plexus area. Right. So now what I would look at, so I just gave you the example before of how we could look at how the sacral and the throat are connected. Now this would be a connection between the solar plexus and the throat. So if you find, so on the podcast, and I'm speaking for you here, Aly, I'm sure that on the podcast, that is a space and place where you have the opportunity to stand in your power, right? It's your podcast, right? You're interviewing someone, but it's your little home that you're creating to help spread your message with the help of the guest that you're interviewing.
No, I was the guest.
Well, okay. Well, then now you're sharing your voice. You're sharing your truth.
Exactly.
Either way here, there is an opportunity for you to be expressing your truth, right? Expressing what makes Aly, Aly. So to make this very clear for everyone, I would look at, as you're clearing your throat around that, how are you feeling about that truth? How are you feeling about your power? Do you feel maybe, putting words in your mouth here, Aly, do you feel unworthy in that moment, right? You just said that you like edifying other people, but Aly, you deserve to be edified by yourself.
Right, yeah.
Does that make sense? Am I resonating?
Yeah. Oh my God, yeah. I always resonate with everything you say. So, Erin, I wanted
love connection.
You have anything to say, did you want to chime in here?
No, I mean, I love what Harrison is saying, and like how he's guiding people to identify with what they're feeling and going through when they dive deeper into whatever the I don't know, blockage, belief, whatever it is you want to call it, that you're experiencing in the moment. And just so you know, Harrison, the reason I'm on the beanbag is I slipped and twisted on some black ice in January because I was overdoing it. And so I'm dealing with like, you know, lower spine and cervical spine issues. And it's a lot of the same things because this last 2 months have been realign, you know, clean out, realign, get really, you know, clear on who it is I am and why it is I'm showing up and where it is I'm showing up. And I've had to even ask Aly, I've had to pull back just like a lot on the things I had committed to that I love doing. And I love the people I'm doing it with. But universe came in and said, nope. You're going to take a deeper break than you thought you were. So, you know, there's a humility that rides with that as well. And it just all tunes into everything that you're saying.
It's interesting. It brings up a powerful point here that maybe I can share with people to make sure that they're very aware of, is the reason I like working with the chakra system is that it supports our holistic system at large. And an example I want to give, you know, in your situation where you're moving through the recovery of a physical injury, I want people to realize that the chakra system, just like an emotional challenge can impact a physiological issue, you can support the recovery of that physical issue by looking at your emotional well-being, right? So you just pinpointed that, so that lower spine area and that, you know, that upper neck area. If I was in your shoes, what I would be looking out for in my recovery process, as well as, you know, making sure you're giving yourself the food and the sleep and all the things, also looking at through your day, how can I support those energetic centers that connect to the spinal column, right? The spinal column and the cervical structures, they correspond to a specific energetic center, right? So if I want the upper neck cervical structure to be supported, a way that I can heal that is by expressing my emotions, right? Expressing to maybe my partner and my friends that I need some help right now. Maybe expressing to my partner that, you know, right now, could you give me a a neck massage, right? Or could you make dinner for me? And it sounds very basic, but just that alone supports the physiological recovery of that area. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. You know, when you can't, like you're talking about, physically lift, because, you know, that area needs time to heal, right? And then you have to I do a lot of visualization, like quantum healing, you know, energy work as a Reiki master, and just, you know, all that kind of fun stuff. But there's a lot of delegation that has to happen. And I'm doing 2 businesses at once right now. And so it was kind of that message of, you have a bigger support structure around you. You have to learn how to be the leader that you generally are, and not just the doer all the time. You have to elevate into a different level of doing.
Receive.
And yeah, exactly. And so, you know, it's just, and it's weird because it's been since like January 1 since this happened, and it's bounced from the sacral area in my neck to my sacrum of my lower back. At one point it was in the center, right around my solar plexus. And so it was like, oh, okay, well, I'm going to go to this healer and get some physical healing, but then I'm going to journal.
Love it.
And then I'm going to make some decisions. And it's like, you know, okay, cool, universe, I got it. We're having a physical, emotional learning lesson.
Yeah. I love it.
Absolutely.
I have a question. Can healing happen instantaneously, do you think? Or do people get stuck on this process of their diagnosis and their labels? This is a interesting one that keeps coming up for me.
You want to go first, Harrison?
So I definitely think the latter is true. People can get stuck on the labels and the diagnoses. So it's a complicated answer. So I view the healing journey across mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual as an onion, right? So we heal something, right? We pull that layer back, and then we realize there's another layer of healing under it. And I feel people can misconstrue that as we're not getting anywhere. So I think, yes, the healing can be quick in terms of getting through that first layer. But then we also need to realize that health and healing isn't a destination, right? It's a mindset. It's a state of being, right? So and let me explain this from this angle. If we see the challenge as, I'm going to get this done and then I'll be good, or I'm going to get this done and then I'll be healthy, or I'm going to get this done and then I'll be complete and whole again, then that is setting us up for failure, because we're going to get there and realize, wait, there's more to do, because there's always more to do. So to sort of summarize it, yes and no.
Yeah. That's great.
Yeah. And I completely agree, but and I've seen it, in different ways. When I've worked with people who've lost limbs and have phantom limb syndrome, healing can happen almost instantaneously in one session, Reiki integrative healing session. And I've done huge meditation seminars in the Dispenza field where the running joke when we do these is, the head count comes in, it's like 1,000 people, whatever, and people with canes and crutches and wheelchairs. And by like the end of the second day, there's a lineup against the back wall, and we actually donate all of those things. So, and I think in some cases, you just have to be in the right mindset to hear something once, to experience it once in your path for that instantaneous healing to happen. But it's a cumulative effect per person in their timeline of living and experiencing and understanding. And I think that's where kind of Harrison was touching on before, is like, yes, people are disabused of themselves when they have to face the reality of health. They can do pills and doctors and surgeries. They can integrate it. They can do a completely holistic, listen to myself, and, go on that deeper journey. But I think that's kind of for each person to figure out when they stop kind of the victimhood mentality of take a pill, feel better instantly. It's okay for me to do this because someone gave me permission, and really keep that power in their court and say, no, and this is why I call it a lifestyle. You have to develop a lifestyle that is you, that is intuitive, that honors that path, right?
And just to add one more point to this, Aly, I also think we have to be able to distinguish between what is a symptom and what is the root. I think a lot of people, and this goes beyond the sort of energetic and emotional world we're talking about. This is all spectrums of health. We have to be open to recognizing, again, what might be showing up symptomatically, and us healing that. We can heal symptoms, but the difference between healing a symptom and healing the root, and what does that express itself as in our unique chemistry, right?
Right. Yes. So good. Okay. So I know you have to leave, but I want to be really selfish and just ask this one last question, because we could talk forever. I know we all have the same vibe
and going on.
So I am just fascinated with dreams, and I love that you do this dreamscape thing. And so I'm curious. This is a very selfish personal question that I'm going to do just because.
I love it. Hit me.
I quite often, and I write they're so vivid, my dreams. I have journals from years. I've had several dreams of me making out with celebrities, like really hot men celebrities like Brad Pitt and Bradley Cooper. So it's interesting to me. And I don't know what you do with your clients. Maybe you can explain to everyone what you actually do when you do dreamscaping.
Yeah. So there's a lot here, and it's so cute. This example that you gave it's an awesome example to use to explain it. So I think, so in the work that I do, the dream world is another area in which we can lean into to get guidance, put very simply. And a big part of what I do with clients is helping them see that, right? Helping them see that this beautiful area that we have every single day is a space and a place that we can hone and mine for guidance. To answer your question specifically, I have to explain a couple of things. We need to see what dreams are, okay? And yes, in my experience, there is a smaller percentage of the dreams that we have that are astral projecting, that are sort of going through ancestral timelines, that are going through, having interactions with external entities, both positive and negative. But what dreams are most of the time is a communication between our unconscious and conscious mind to help us with challenges in our waking state. And how the unconscious speaks to the conscious is through symbolism. So I want to share something here with you, Aly, that I might have shared with you before. It's that the dreamer is always dreaming about the dreamer. So the first step for you, Aly, in terms of breaking down these hot men that you're being intimate with, is to realize you're not actually dreaming about literal Brad Pitt. You're dreaming about what Brad Pitt represents to you, right? So I would look at what Brad Pitt, what does he symbolize to you? Two, what does the act of, I think, and
Leonardo DiCaprio.
Yep. Yeah. What these men represent, and what does the act of intimacy that you're doing with them, what does that represent to you? And then the last step, so get that symbolism down. Then, and this goes to, you said, and this is very important because you said these are repeated dreams. They're not just one-off, they're repeated dreams. That's an indicator, right? That's an indicator that your unconscious is trying to tell you something, right? When we have repeated dreams, something is trying, the unconscious that loves you, right, is trying to give you messages to help you with something. And that something is in your waking state. So there is a challenge that you're going through right now that your unconscious, through the symbolism of Brad Pitt making out with you.
Oh my God, like, Justin Bieber. This girl had Justin Bieber. So did I. Was
that Jacqueline? Yes, Jacqueline.
He was Jacqueline's, but we won't even go there.
Yeah. So Aly, I got a little bit more time, so I'm happy to.
It's the feeling, though. It's the feeling that you get in your dream, not necessarily breaking it down and like, this means that and this means that. Those interpretations.
The feeling, the emotion that we have behind it, that is what I would hone in on, right? And then connect it. It's important. Connect it to a challenge. So let's say if you're going through something with your business right now, you're trying to bring in more clients, for example. Connect it to that, right? That's why the messages are coming through. How'd I go?
I need some Brad Pitt clients. No, I'm just kidding. No, that's amazing. I just love it because and how you got into it. Like, did you read, like, do you have crazy dreams that you go, like, do you astral travel? Can we just talk about that for a second? Like, how do you actually?
So
Yeah,
I want to
I've
make this
done it
very
once.
clear. Yeah. So I want to make this very clear for people listening. We all dream. Every single one of us dream. And I'm sure people watching this, there's going to be at least one or two people. It's like, Harrison, I don't dream. I've never dreamed. No, it's not the fact that you don't dream. It's the fact that you don't remember your dream, right? This remembering is a muscle that we all have. And like any muscle, if we don't appreciate it, if we don't use it, what happens to that muscle? It atrophies, right? It fades, right? So I want to say this to every person listening, is that everyone dreams. So you need to start building the muscle of how to connect back into them. In terms of how do I dream, Aly, and if I astral travel, I haven't, not that I'm aware of yet, I haven't astral traveled yet, but my dreams, like every night, when I go to bed, and it's interesting that you bring this up because I just had a rant on this a couple of days ago with someone, with a biohacker. And I think this is something that we don't see in the sort of masculine, sort of getting stuff done biohacking world. We see sleep as a space of rest and physical rejuvenation, which it very much is. But we often overlook this spiritual and emotional adventure that we all go on in our dreamscape at night. And for me, when I go to bed, because you asked what's my dreamscape like? I get prepared. I get prepared and I brain dump, I journal all the things that I know can keep me thinking, keep me overthinking. And I just go in with an open heart, open mind, and I'm open to receive whatever needs to come through.
Yes, 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 and yes. I'm just in love with, I don't go to bed thinking, oh, I need rest. Like, I'm like, what adventure can I get into tonight?
Yeah.
Like, I go deep in my dreams. It's so fun.
Let me share something with you, because I'm really feeling inspired by this chat right now. There's a word, there's a phrase in Eastern philosophies, and I think it's in the Central American perspective too, of Maya, right? The word Maya. And Maya refers to the great illusion. And the great illusion is not the dreamscape that we go to at night. The great illusion is the waking state that we're currently in right now. So based off what you just said, Aly, it would behoove all of us.
Make out with him?
Well, I mean, you could definitely take it that way. But I guess the point I'm trying to make here for everyone is this is a reality that gives us a lot more than we realize. And if we can lean into it, right, we can expand in our waking real state.
Yes. Wow. I love that. I think I'm going to go back and reread my journals.
And chakra work, just to sort of bring it back to sort of what we've been talking about before it, chakra work emphasizes this, right? Because your energetic centers, they don't switch off when you go to bed and go into your dreamscape. If anything, I've noticed.
Illuminate.
Yeah, they illuminate, right? Our chakras are many things, but one of the things in relation to dreams is that they are a spiritual portal in many ways. Mm-hmm. And in our dreamscape, that is when our spiritual being is most active, is in the dreamscape. So if we can connect into our heart chakra, right, which is the seat of our soul in our waking state, and then we're very intentional and mindful of that connection going into our dreamscape, you can only imagine what's going to unfold because of that.
Right. And there's so many different, like, we talk about the 1 to 7 chakras, right?
Yeah.
But there's so many more.
Yeah.
That perhaps in your dream state, I don't know. Like, what do you think about? I don't talk much about like the 8th, 9th, 10th, 12th chakra.
Yeah. Neither do I, but I do. I know of their existence. I'm aware of them, and I think just personally being transparent, and this is interesting for people to realize too. Our chakras develop with us, right? So, for example, the root and the sacral, they develop in that early childhood, going into adolescent age frame, right? I'm 29 years old, right? So that in terms of chakra, funnily enough, coincides with the throat right now. It's probably why It's probably why I'm so active on Clubhouse at this moment in my period of time, right? But if you keep following that progression upwards, you realize that those 8, 9, 10th chakras, you can see that they start to be developing a bit later, right? When we start to be becoming more, wise in many ways, when our evolution starts reaching that. So just to answer your question, yes, they're probably active, but if they're not for you, don't see that as a negative thing. See that as just I just need to go deeper into myself to open them up.
Oh, so if you're like a baby, the third or the sixth and seventh chakra aren't developed yet.
In terms of,
cool.
yeah, in terms of just physiological structures and expansion, no, they're not. They're there, but they're part of your growth. Right.
Okay, so I want you to kind of tell people where you're, because this is the Harrison show, even though you don't think it is. Harrison's all about self-love, right? And you have this, you can put your link up there if you want, feel free. You do have a thing on self-love. Now, what is that? Can you explain it?
A thing as in a freebie? Is that what you're getting at? Or you're talking about what I do for coaching?
Whatever you want to put up there for people to see.
All right. I'm trying to.
I just love this dream stuff. I think I'm just gonna get way more into it. There we go.
Follow that pull. Follow that pull, Aly. There's a reason that you're feeling excited about that, right?
Well, I'm gonna get back into acting so I can meet Brad Pitt.
There you go. There you go. There you go.
But no, there's lots of other information behind there for sure.
Well, yeah, like going back to the childhood element that you talked about, a big part of those images, and I want to make this very clear for people, and this sort of connects to your question about the work that I do in the world and my connection to self-love and helping people. A lot of what I do is helping people with that childhood area of their development. Because I don't know if people have noticed this, but a lot of the challenges that we face, right, whether it be a health condition, whether it be relationship challenges, whether it be maybe finances, our relationship with money. I don't know about you two, but a lot of those challenges for me stemmed back to my childhood, right? Stemmed back to the developmental stage, my upbringing, my parents, the culture, the religion I was in.
Scarcity, programming.
Yeah, all of these things. So a lot of the self-love work that I do to help people come back into themselves is moving through the layers that are restricting that love from being expressed, right? And a big part of those layers is that sort of those inner child programming, those inner child traumas, those inner child limiting beliefs that we deserve to move on from, right? And the link that I just put up is if people go to it, they can download some free chakra-based meditations, affirmations, and visualizations that really help them tune into these centers, but also are there to help you start removing some of these layers that are restricting your self-love.
Yeah, because that's the foundation to the unconditional love that we start to embody, right?
Well,
I mean, everything starts from yourself with self-love, self-acceptance.
So I call it. I was telling you I just got off a podcast. I launched my podcast last week, and the name of my podcast is the Cosmic Love Antenna, and this is the love transformation that I help people with, and it's what you're speaking of here. And the reason I call it the Cosmic Love Antenna is because the extent in which we go into our self-love inside of us, so move through those layers, heal those traumas, move beyond those limiting beliefs as one example. The extent in which we do that is also the extent in which we radiate our light and love to the world, right? We have this misconception that I need to be the superhero. I need to go outside and do all the things so people can see me. But we forget that when we do the inner work, right? And I always quote the Heart Math Institute here, and they've done work around how the heart chakra has an electromagnetic frequency around it, right? And that frequency expands based off the love that you've connected into within yourself. So what I'm getting at here is your self-love and going in, the work that you're doing on yourself has a direct impact on the frequency and thus the people that you touch externally.
So it comes full circle.
Yeah. Yeah. And it shows you that self-love is never selfish.
Right.
Right. So I'll give you one example and I'll throw it back to you, Aly. I was talking yesterday about relationships. Right. And these are all things that we all deserve, to be in a beautiful, loving, intimate relationship with another if we choose to be so. And we often forget that we don't want to go looking if we don't have the thing inside of us. Mm. So meaning, like I was talking about a prayer that we can use to attract our beautiful soulmate if we decide to have one. And a part of that prayer is, in the prayer, you say what you're bringing to the relationship. So let's say I want to bring in someone that's in tune with their chakra system. Well, what am I bringing to that dynamic? Am I bringing someone that's disconnected from the chakra system? Or more powerfully, am I bringing someone that's also connected in-depthly to his own chakra system? And that is what attracts, right? We attract what we are. Mm-hmm. So again, just an example of the inner work that we do impacts the reality externally.
Yeah, isn't that amazing how strong the vibration is? Like you feel like you've written the list, you've embodied the energetic fields, you've done all this, and then you attract sometimes where it's like this unresolved childhood stuff that you have to go through, and that's part of the lesson, that's part of the journey. You say whenever you need to jump off, because we could go
let's
on
do 5 more minutes. Let's do 5 more minutes.
Okay. Yeah, so you become what you're attracting, basically. Because vibration to vibration. I've been listening to a lot of Abraham Hicks lately. I love her.
If you have not listened to Abraham Hicks, watching this, that's your first piece of homework.
Yeah, exactly.
She
highlights
exactly what you're talking about, right? I think a lot of my teachings in that field, a lot of them come from her, right? And being on the, I think she calls it the high flying disc, right? Being on the high flying disc and being in that space and reflecting outwards, right? Going there first and then the world changing.
Yeah, in the vortex.
Yeah, the vortex. It's interesting that you bring her up because, you know, she's been around for a long time.
Yeah.
I shared it with my mum the other day and she's like, oh yeah, I was listening to her when I was your age. I'm like, what, really? And that to me, right, if anything, shows the validity of the teachings that she expresses, right? They are timeless. They're timeless in their potential within us, right?
Yeah. It gives people also the permission to, well, for one, take autonomy and sovereignty of their own life, but also the opportunity to look into, we can do our own channeling. Like she channeled it quite fluidly. And I feel
putting it lightly.
Yeah, right. It's like a muscle, like you said, like anything that we do, the dreamscape, everything's just like this muscle, the trust muscle, everything has to be put into
the channeling is interesting, and maybe I can speak to that here, Aly.
Yes.
So I'll connect this to the chakras too. I'm very, very shortly, I think next month it starts, I'm going into like I don't know if you know what a mystery school is. A mystery school is a type of, it's a type of spiritual education, putting it very simply. And one of the parts of the mystery school is learning to channel and build that muscle that you're talking about. And I think it's very important for people to realize that we all have this ability inside of us, right? I think especially within the spiritual community, I've seen this. It's very easy for us to see someone that has channeled their gifts, that has heightened their gifts, that has flexed that muscle. And it's very easy for us to see, oh, that's something that they have, and I don't have them, or I'm not worthy of even being on that level. And I want to make this very clear for everyone. We all have a third eye chakra. And one of the roles of the third eye chakra is the expansion of these spiritual gifts. You could call them the clear senses. You could call it, one of them would be channeling. And what that signifies is that we all have the ability to tap into these things, right? We don't live in a culture anymore. It's shifting slowly. But we don't live in a culture anymore where these gifts are nurtured, right? We don't live in a culture anymore where these gifts are seen as what we actually are, right? I'm sure people watching this can relate with the, maybe they see auras, maybe they see like loving entities, maybe they feel things that other people don't, and maybe they were called weird and woo-woo and different for being like that. But I really want to promote the idea that not only are you not different, but you are being more of what you actually are.
Mm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, and it got suppressed when they were younger because it was considered weird. And, speaking to spirits, like mediumship, like we potentially all have that ability. But for me, it's like, well, I know when there's a spirit in the room, I can just feel it. I haven't spoken to them. I mean, I speak to my mom, but I don't see her.
Yeah. And you could, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I want to be very clear. There are a lot of us come into this world with one more apparent than others, right? That's why there will be some people that are more empathic. That's why there'll be some people that are they can see the auras, for example, more clearly than other people. But we all have some spectrum of these senses. And when we lean into the one that we do have reflecting, so for me, for example, my clear empathy is very strong, right? My ability to connect into people's feelings and emotions and sense them from that heart space is very high. And I've noticed as I've been doing that, my other senses have started being switched on. It's because I'm accepting that part of me, and now the holistic nature of my body, but in this instance, my spiritual being is now being switched on. So I want to promote that for people. And one more point here, Aly. I also think, and this is just maybe me theorizing, but I also think that there isn't a space for it because the culture at large sees the danger in it. Mm-hmm. Right? The culture at large and the systems at play see the danger in a global society realizing how powerful they are. In a global society realizing that we all have not just the divine or God consciousness inside of us, but all have the ability to express these gifts that can impact not just the individual, but the collective.
Yeah, and that's why there's such a control on what we're doing in the food industry and the drug industry. It's, of course, they're fearing that, of course. Yeah. And it's so obvious now, but maybe not to everybody. But I'm glad that you brought that up because it's so true. Even that's why I do like the sun gazing to open up the pineal gland. Yep. And that's like weird to people. What? You're standing barefoot in the earth to look at the sun to open up because it's calcified? Like what?
Yeah. What does calcified mean? What's doing the calcification? Well, that's a whole other conversation.
Do you drink tap water? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. It's funny, like saying that, and I have to jump off here in a sec, Aly, but it's funny, and I really love this chat, and we'll have to do it again. It's been very energizing. It's funny that you say things like that, and automatically there are even programs in me like playing up saying, look at this, who's this woo-woo woman talking about how tap water and fluoride can impact me on a spiritual level? What the hell is she talking about? But it's, I mean, I speak for myself.
Bitches, baby. Holistic bitches.
Yeah.
Oh, so good. Oh, I love you. And I'm so glad that you came and visited this Free Flow Friday session with me and Erin and I.
It was such a pleasure.
Absolutely. Yeah. I love just sitting and listening. Sometimes it's just lovely to hear and not always, you know what I mean? And share in a different way.
Yeah, I hogged the mic for this one.
Well, Erin, I appreciate you holding space. I can feel your loving energy. You're there for me, so I can feel your love and holding space. So I appreciate you too, Erin.
Yeah, I'd love to have you guys have you come back and definitely dive into some more of these amazing topics that I think just, for the people listening or people watching this again on the replay, that, diving in deeper and asking those probing questions is really what we're all talking about. It's what we're all helping other people to do. And whoever it is that you tune into, you know, whoever it is that said that thing that clicked that moment, just, you know, contact us, follow us, you know, follow along on Clubhouse. I'm sure we all have classes and things for everyone to practice with. So I look forward to all of you. Yeah.
And Erin, sorry to interrupt you, but that feeling that you were just talking about, that's a spiritual sense, right? When you hear someone's voice, right, and it feels good, like it goes beyond the logical, right? Just for some reason it feels good, right? That's a spiritual sense, right? So lean into that, right? That in itself is opening you up to more, and it's more of that trust, right?
Absolutely.
That's why Clubhouse is so addictive, because you hear resonance of vibrations of sound, and we are sound.
It's that heart and throat chakra analysis, bringing it full circle.
Yeah, it's so beautiful. Thank you so much. Have a beautiful day.
Thank you, Erin. Thank you, Aly. Can I leave without closing the room? How do I do that? I don't want to.
Oh, yeah.
If you guys are still going to chat.
I think you just X out.
If I just leave, that's good.
I was going to say, click on the little arrow on the top there where it says Chakra Chats, and then you'll see underneath your name it says leave.
It's not Clubhouse.
Okay, I'm going to make sure. Okay. Doesn't say leave.
X on the top of your screen.
Have you never had a threesome before?
No, first threesome on Instagram. Yay. All right, I found it. All right, bye guys.
Bye.
Awesome.
That was super fun.
Yes, isn't he wonderful?
I love our fun. Our Fridays are so much fun.
They are. So if you guys are just jumping on, you just missed it, but you can go back and watch the replay. I will definitely post this after. It was a beautiful conversation with Erin and I at the beginning, and then Harrison jumped on after. Yes. Wow.
So much fun. I know.
I love this dreamscape. I'm going to dive deeper into that.
Yeah.
The dream world.
Oh, and I like kind of how he illustrated this, because I use this a lot too. Like in the morning when you first wake up, I actually encourage people to keep just some paper and a pen next to bed, and I always say, like, even if you don't have like a vivid memory, write down what you're feeling right away. Like, because in the morning, part of my morning routine is I lay there as soon as I become conscious, and I just check into my energy, and I check into my emotions, and I check into my physical, just to see, like, where am I right now? Okay, was this relative to like a dream that I just had, or did I just wake up feeling this way? Because it sets the tone for you, and you can use it to really drive you and make you stronger, and help make choices that are more empowering.
Yeah, and it also puts you into that the muscle, the memory.
Yep.
So if you start to write down, sometimes later on though, if I don't remember it right away, I'll start to practice yoga and I'll feel my body opening up. And sometimes when I'm opening a certain part of my body, I'll just have this flashback of like, oh my God, I just dreamt of this. Or if I don't even remember, but if I go onto social media and I look and I see my friend's photo, like an avatar of their picture, I'm like, oh, they were in my dream last night. Like, I honestly, it's so weird. And it's not even like you remember exactly what it was. It's a sensation that is just like, so it just feels visceral almost. It's like, wow, I remember you, but I don't even know what it was about just from seeing someone's photo.
Yep.
Interesting.
Maybe we'll dive into this again next Friday.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. So let's journal our dreams this week, and yeah, we'll close down the room, but I appreciate you, Erin, always. I love you, and I hope you heal quickly with your back and your neck.
Yes. I love you too, Miss Aly Paws.
Mwah.
Talk to you later. Have a great one, everybody.
Yeah, thanks everyone for showing up. Bye.